So I'm going to do it in English first and then Spanish, and then I'll take questions after that. Okay? So on Friday, April 1st, 2022, officers were dispatched to the 5600 block of Culebra Road for a shooting in progress. Victims, a 16-year-old Lorenzo Samuel Webb and 17-year-old Hurricane Jackson, were outside with a third person who ended up being a witness when a masked individual shot at them. The first victim, Lorenzo, who died at the scene because of the shooting, was struck in the head and died because of his injuries. The second victim, Hurricane, was shot in the arm. The second victim was armed, at the time was armed with the AR-15 rifle, which he had tucked in the front of his pants. After being shot, the second victim turned to run towards the suspect and chase him. As he was running, he attempted to pull out the AR-15 from his pants and dropped it onto the ground. The suspect turned around, picked up the long gun, and was now armed with the rifle and the handgun. The suspect ran to an apartment nearby and started banging on the door. The second witness opened the door and recognized the defendant as the first witness's friend. They knew each other. The defendant, again armed with two firearms, was wearing a ski mask, but he had the ski mask pushed up onto his forehead, revealing his face. Occupants of the apartment pushed the defendant out of the apartment and forced him to leave. The defendant then ran through the parking lot to his vehicle, but his vehicle wouldn't start, so he just took off on foot. The detectives made the location shortly after the shooting came out and began their investigation. Through their investigation, the defendant was interviewed and stated that he was at the apartment complex around that time, dropping off a friend, but he tried to go home and his vehicle wouldn't start, so he just walked home. He said that as he was walking home is when he heard gunshots in the area. He told detectives that when he got home, he'd showered, got ready for bed, and then went to sleep. However, his cell phone records indicate that the defendant made several calls immediately following the shooting, and his cell phone records also placed the defendant at a location other than his home and other than the locations where he stated that he was. The defendant was apprehended today after a warrant was signed. Our rapid response team contacted the defendant and placed her in custody without incident. And he's going to be charged with 1 count of murder and with 1 count of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Okay, now I'm going to do it in Spanish, and then I'll answer some questions. Okay? En el 1 de abril del 2022, oficiales fueron llamados para una disparada en el 5600 bloque de Culebra. 2 víctimas y un testigo estaban afuera cuando el sospechoso disparó. Un disparo le pegó a la primera víctima, Lorenzo Samuel Webb, de 17 años, en la cabeza y falleció de sus heridas. La segunda víctima, de 16 años, era Hurricane Jackson y él tenía una herida de bala en su hombro. La segunda víctima tenía una arma de un AR-15 dentro de sus pantalones y comenzó a correr detrás del sospechoso cuando él disparó. Cuando estaba corriendo trató de sacar su arma, pero se le cayó en el piso y el sospechoso lo recogió y ya tenía la arma de AR-15 y el handgun y comenzó a correr hacia un apartamento conocido. Él tocó la puerta y otro testigo abrió la puerta y reconoció al sospechoso como un amigo del primer testigo, era un conocido. Él tenía una máscara, pero lo tenía empujado así en la frente y enseñó a su cara. Otros otros ocupantes del apartamento lo empujaron afuera del apartamento y no dejaron que entre al apartamento, y él corrió a su carro, pero su carro no prendía cuando trató de salir. Él corrió del lugar. Detectives llegaron y comenzaron a su investigación. Hablaron con el sospechoso y él dijo que él sí estaba en el apartamento dejando a un amigo en el apartamento, pero cuando trató de salir de allí su vehículo no arrancaba y decidió caminar a su casa. Y dijo que cuando estaba caminando en su casa oyó a varios balazos en el área, pero él llegó a su casa, dijo que se bañó y se preparó para la cama. Cuando los detectives comenzaron a ver a su registro del celular, enseñó que en los momentos siguiendo el balazo, él hizo varias llamadas a varias personas, y también los registros dicen que enseña que él no estaba en su casa y no estaba en el lugar donde él dijo que estaba durante los balazos. Él fue arrestado hoy y va a ser cargado con una cuenta de asesinato y una cuenta de asalto agravado con arma. Take any questions at this time.
Can you tell us more about the suspect who was arrested today, his name, if he has any prior convictions?
So I don't know his criminal history. I didn't get that information. He has a SID. His SID number is 1172649, 1172-649. Abel Angel Riojas III, and he's 19 years old.
A 19-year-old having a handgun, how is he able to get a gun like that? Each one he wanted to purchase.
Sure. So obviously he had, he was illegally carrying. He was unlawfully carrying a handgun. So how he obtained it, I don't know. The detectives are looking into all that stuff. But yeah, to your point, he was illegally carrying a handgun unlawfully.
Yeah, and what's the motive? Maybe you can respond to that both.
So I don't know. I know that the first witness and the suspect knew each other. I don't know to what extent, and I don't know if they had beef before. I don't know the motive of the shooting. We just know that the positive IDs were made, and we do have this individual in custody.
¿Las dos armas las tienen recuperadas ustedes?
Sí, creo, pero no estoy seguro de eso.
Si puedes responder a lo del motivo en español y si
Sí.
puedes incluir en la respuesta si creen que es relacionado a pandillas.
So, no me acuerdo.
El motivo.
So, no sabemos el motivo. Sabemos que el primer testigo que estaba con las dos víctimas cuando ocurrió el balazo es conocido con el sospechoso, y que el segundo testigo reconoció al sospechoso como amigo del primer testigo y hicieron facial recognition. Lo reconoció. Pero el motivo no se sabe. No sabe si tenían historia o si eran amigos y ya no son. Eso sí, no sé el motivo en este momento. No tengo esa información.
So were those cell phone records pretty key in leading to this arrest today?
They were key. They were key in putting holes in the defendant's accounts, his story. He said he was one place, and his cell phone records show he was somewhere else. They show he was making several phone calls in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, where he was saying that he was at walking home or whatever he was doing.
And for such young people to be involved in this, a 16-year-old was dead, a 17-year-old shot, a 19-year-old now in custody. It must be concerning for police that such young people are involved in these types of crimes.
It's very concerning, and also the time of the night that this happened. It was early hours of that Friday. These were all young individuals, young teenagers, young adults. To your point, the defendant was in possession of a firearm. Also, one of the victims, who was 16 at the time, was also in possession of a firearm. All these risky behaviors, it's something that concerns us. It should concern us as a society. It definitely concerns us as police. Police and our commitment to keeping the public safe. These are all risky behaviors that could and should be avoided. These kids should have been at home, with their families.
And that 16-year-old was also armed. So there was 3 guns then at that scene.
No, the long gun that the second victim had, and then I'm sorry, I said he was 16. Yeah, he was 16.
Okay.
At the time, he was 16. He had the long gun tucked in his pants, and then the defendant had the handgun. He ended up with both guns.
Comentas en la investigación que tenía una máscara.
Sí.
¿Está relacionada esa máscara con algún otro ataque ese día?
Eso sí no sé, nada más que en el momento del disparo él tenía la máscara cubriendo su cara, pero cuando fue a tocar la puerta la tenía alzada en su frente, y el segundo testigo lo reconoció como un conocido del primer testigo.
¿Puedes decir en español lo que le comentaste a ella de su preocupación?
Sí, nos preocupa como el departamento y debe preocuparnos como sociedad. Gente tan jóvenes, aquí teníamos uno de 16 años que tenía una arma. Tenemos el sospechoso que ahora tiene 19 años, pero en ese instante tenía 18 años, que no deben, legalmente no deben cargar armas, los estaban cargando ilegales. Y en la hora que ocurrió esto fue muy temprano, como a las 1 de la mañana o 2 de la mañana de ese viernes, el 1 de abril. Esas cosas son muy preocupantes de nosotros y deben ser muy preocupantes en sociedad. Esos jóvenes deberían estar en casa, deberían estar con sus parientes. Esos son risky behaviors,
Comportamiento de
riesgo que desfortunadamente aquí terminó en una persona que perdió su vida.
What did you say? Spell your first and last name.
Oh, yeah. Sergeant Washington Moscoso, WASHINGTON, MOSCOS.
So, you're an officer?
So I mean, we're all officers, but I'm sorry.
Sergeant.
Sorry. You know, I'm sweating.
I know.
Hey,
It's like, this is
And these
December.
lights.
Why is this December and we're all sweating?